Talofa lava, warm Pacific greetings, kia ora. My name is Cassius Kuresa1. I'm really honoured to be here this afternoon. I was invited to come and talk a bit about the program that we ran down at St. Pius, which is a small school in Titahi Bay, Porido in Wellington. So we had a kind of a journey as a school community to try and empower our young people, and so this is our story really. I mean, a lot of you guys are doing, a lot of your school communities are doing similar work as well, and so it's good to acknowledge that there's great stuff going on, but I guess the trick is how do we kind of jump on and carry that momentum on and make it more kind of aligned with what we're trying to achieve. So this is, Malanga was the name of the group that we formed, meaning Journey in Samoan, and this is, we even got a little logo, our own little logo. We paid $40 for that. So we had a local artist, so we hit him up for mates rates and $40, so we got our little logo there. So that's kind of something the group's really proud of, that we use a lot. So just the background, so if we look at our demographics, St. Pius School is a little Catholic school, another school that's just over 100 in the roll. In regards to Pacifica students, it's about 25%, and there's about 26% Māori, so very small school, but we were able to achieve some great things. Health promoting schools played a huge role. Our facilitator down there was Siausi Mafi. He's a Tongan guy who he was really passionate about it, and that made a huge difference. So it all started, I guess, with him and Jane Reddish, who was the principal then, and so she was really good. She was a great leader. Being a small community in Pororoa, it's different because even though she was the principal, she didn't live in Pororoa. She wasn't from Poridoa. And so that in itself, for a community, is they kind of look at that and think, oh, she's not local, she lives out in Laio Bay, you know, we're out here in Poridoa in the hoods. So, you know, that's the kind of thinking that a lot of our communities have. But what Jane did was she engaged with the communities and the schools. She actually became part of the family, part of the community, and that was through attending all the events, greeting parents, talking to them, saying their names appropriately, all that kind of stuff. So she did a lot of hard work to get that engagement with the whole school. So when we first started, we were just looking at the achievement rates of our students. And so when that was touched on in the funnels, I'll touch on it later. And so we just wanted to get our parents involved in education because they weren't. There was only the same hardcore group, maybe 3 of us, 3 parents. So it was myself and 2 other ladies, and they automatically said, you be the chair because we told you so. And so I fronted it because they told me to, and they did all the work. But for us, it was about, because we were passionate and we were committed to lead the group, to get everyone on board. So I just wanted to acknowledge Beryl and Nikki. They were the other 2 ladies that helped out. Without them, it wouldn't have been possible. So the first thing that Jane did was she had a whānau. And so the same families turned up. There was about 5 families that turned up, the usuals. And so she kind of said, look, these are the achievement rates of our Pacifica students. You know, what do you think? What do you feel we should be doing as a school to improve those? But actually the kids were doing really well. 85% of them were actually above average Pacifica students, but as Pacifica parents we said, what about the other 15%? What are we doing for them? So our goal was to get all our kids up to past the national average. And so we knew that, you know, everyone's been talking about the parents and the family, how much huge role it plays, but also yourselves as teachers, because you guys, you know, the most important, I guess, from where I sit as a parent, you know, the most influential with our kids and how they think and how they try and pursue things in their life. But at the same time, the parents need to be on board. So that was kind of the thing that Jane was pushing with us. So obviously we had to have a second whānau to get more parents there. So we planned it a month after the first one because we had to do, not door knocking, but you know when parents come pick up their kids. So we were waiting in the car parks and would go and talk to them, hand them flyers, tell them to come because, you know, parents, it's pretty hard to get them involved in a lot of stuff. It's funny though, when you go to a rugby game on Saturday, you see the whole family, uncles, aunties, cousins, neighbours. So it depends on what events or what's happening around the child that the family gets involved. So our push is how do we change that mentality to be the same from sports and church to education. And it's a mind shift that still needs to happen a lot stronger. And so the second whānau was really good. We had about 15 families turn up, which is good. So that was just missing two families from all the Pacific population within our school. And it was really cool because what we did was, before that, we planned as our little working group how we're going to engage them. Because a lot of our parents, Pacifica parents that are there at our school, they've just come to New Zealand. So they've only been there maybe 6-8 years, so they're still quite new to New Zealand. So we had to kind of get them to buy into what we're trying to achieve. Because in a lot of our Pacific cultures, you know, if kids go to school, that's it. School looks after school. Education is there when they come home. They don't have to do it because it should be looked after at school. But in reality, that's not what happens. And so we had to use things like video clips of the migration story, you know, way back when our parents came, when our grandparents came, just reminding them why that a lot of our Pacific people are here, not to play for the All Blacks, but for all these other opportunities that are available for them. And so that was really touching for them. So that kind of hit the heart with them. If you can hit with the heart, touch their hearts, then things will happen. So, you know, parents remembered why they were here. You know, back in the days in the 60s, New Zealand was seen as the land of milk and honey. But when we got here, it was more interest rates and inflations. And so with that second whānau, we kind of did a workshop, but what got them there is we had a big feed. Because food was all, you know, it sounds silly, but food will get a lot of people there. Especially if it's chop suey, fried rice, chow mein, the food that we love to eat, Pacific Islanders. So we did a big promotion saying we're going to give them free dinner. Bring your kids along as well. The kids will be looked after in another classroom by the older kids. And it got a lot of parents there, and that was a draw card. But also, we told them the story of why we need to be active in our kids' education. So in that whānau, we looked at, you know, what can we do to bring our school together and get involved in the learning. And so that's where the family events came up. It was funny when you put up those 4 boxes, because they're all interrelated really. You get an event, you get networking, you get learning, all of that in one go. So we had a whole lot of events like fitness. We did a lot of fitness stuff. So all the mothers like Zumba. So we had to get one of the Zumba instructors. He had to be good looking too, with a good build. And he did Zumba, all the mothers were there. Not only Pacific mothers, we had European mothers, Māori mothers. It was awesome. And so it wasn't good for us guys, because it's not really a guy thing to do Zumba. No offense against guys who do Zumba anyway. But it was a good event because it got people there. We did boxing. We got one of the local maraes who do boxing, and that's when all the fathers turned up, because they all think they're Mayweather or McGregor or whatever. And so we did little things like that just got the parent engaged. And then after that we held, so we'll say every second week we'll do a fitness evening, and in between is an information evening. So that's where you throw in the numeracy, all that kind of stuff, math stuff. So they came along because they were just jumping on that train, you know, they're doing this. So that was really, really good for us. And I guess the other thing was utilising local resources. So a lot of the facilitators here have accesses to the PHOs, and they run a whole lot of free programs out there. So, you know, you don't have to get money to get a lot of these Zumba stuff happening, because there's PHOs that actually do that in their communities. So how do your facilitators hook you up with those contacts to come and run them for your schools on a regular basis, because that's what they're paid to do. So that's a big kind of a big learning that we continue to do, is using the free resources. But those drink bottles and t-shirts, they still come in handy. So Malanga, that was the name we came up with at the second whānau, because it just, you know, it's a journey, and this is kind of explanation of what it means. And it's always hard in a Pacifica group, because through the government we're lumped as one, but in you know, within Pacifica there's heaps of us, you know. In the Ministry of Pacific, people say there's 8 main Pacific Island groups, but there's way more than that. And I guess for us, part of the learning for our teachers was being able to know the different groups, know the history of the Pacific Islands, that are, what beef went between the Samoans and the Tongans, or the Niueans and the Fijians, because that's really important information to know. It's like you don't go up to a Tongan family and say, hey, talofa lava, because you'll offend them more. So it's really important that you do know, if your family's a Tongan or Niuean, that you know the appropriate greetings to greet them by, because if you do it wrong, then that's pretty big stuff up. So that was our name we came up with. And this is the purpose of the program, really, was just getting our parents involved. It was just frustrating for us being that core group of parents, not seeing the others, but then, this program allowed us to tap into those other parents. A lot of them were really shy. A lot of them didn't really know what was going on. A lot of them didn't even care. And so we had to keep talking with them all the time, say, hey, this is a cool thing, man. This is a really good thing. Part of our formal presentation, we touched on, I guess, the trends of Pacific youth, low employment rates, NEETs, all that kind of stuff. So we want our parents to know the consequence of not being involved with their kids' learning. We don't want our kids to become another statistic. And so that touched some of the parents, and it offended some of the parents. So you have to be careful how you say your messages or what you try and do to kind of get their buy-in. So we had our working committee. Because we did it through halfway through the year, we scheduled out the months, having an event each month, having at least 2 each month. We started off with 2 each month, and then we moved into 1 each week. And it was pretty hard for us because we had to do it ourselves. The facilitator was cool because they could tap into various resources, but a lot of it was on the working committee. It could be pretty strainful for some, but because we were really passionate about what we were doing, we just drove on. And so when you come back to leadership and ownership, it's sad because it does rely on a core group of parents to make it happen. And I know you guys have some groups that are already in your schools that are quite active and committed to it. So you need to tap into those people, make them get things going, and work alongside them. One of the things too was when we first started, one of the learning was the teachers kind of stood back a bit. They were, okay, cool, you guys got it. But it doesn't work like that. The teachers have to be involved all the way through as well, because a parent is more likely to listen to a teacher telling them to come to this thing and that, as opposed to me or one of the other mums, because the teachers are still held in high regard for our Pacific parents and teachers, but they don't have that engagement. And that's what we managed to achieve. The local resources, and then the creating sustainability, because that's a hard one, is trying to make it carry on. Because with me, if my son's gone, I'm gone. So I left the school this year, because my boy's gone to intermediate now. So what we did was, we knew some of the mothers were still there for another 4 or 5 years, so we got them involved in the group, and they took some leadership roles as well. So that's about creating sustainability, but it's also about just building other parents to be able to manage little projects or little programs. So this is one of the fitness nights. This is the boxing night. Always popular, all the fitness stuff, and the key thing was having kids and parents doing it together. The kids are always laughing at their mum and dad when they see them trying to move or dance and that, but that was all part of it. It was part of bringing them together. We had Matt Samuela, who's from Marairo Marae down there, down in Porirua, Waitangirua. He was great. He was really good at getting all our families involved. So we had those. We had the homework nights. And then this is around the sustainability. This is how we've managed to keep things going. So, our achievement rates got a lot better as well. So the leadership is key. So the principal actually got out and did a lot of hard work. Some might say, it's not in a job description, but if that's the outcome that the school's wanting to achieve, then you've got to do different things. You've got to do things differently, because if you look at the statistics of our Pacifica and Māori kids, it's not getting better, it's actually getting worse. So how do we work as a school community to try and make things better? Ownership was hard too, because at one time some of the teachers, oh, that's your guys' thing. I said, no, it's our thing, it's a combined thing. Unless the teachers and parents work together, like it's been said all morning, it's not going to work. And having the events in the calendar, because the schools, they got their calendar up and it's chocker, everything's pretty much full. So you have to get in early to get your activities in, otherwise you can't get in at all. And so for us, it's really key that the school actually gets the Pacifica parents group or whatever group they've got, get them involved in the planning and the curriculum planning stuff to see how they can incorporate into their calendar. The Board of Trustees was huge for us. So what happened from here was that we got a Pacifica representative on the Board of Trustees, because they didn't have one before. So we got one on there, and so that person would be part of our Malanga group, report back to the Board of Trustees, share ideas, or take whatever the school's talking about back to the Malanga group. And then the other one there was just embracing the wider community, because what happened was, because Tino Bay is a small community, other schools found out about it, other groups, and so they wanted to get involved. So we just opened it up to everyone, because that's what you want to achieve. One of the funny things was we had a Pacifica group, and then they started a Māori group, the parents, because they were thinking, oh yeah, you guys want to start yours, we'll start ours then. But it was, it became a little competition, but it was a good thing. And so we were doing the umu, and they were like, oh yeah, we're going to do a hangi. And so it was like we were competing against each other. And then after a while we just thought, hey, why don't we just combine? Because all our kids hang out together. Let's just do it together. And so that was something that kind of grew. We didn't plan for that. So we combined with the Māori group, but then we had the whole school community saying, why can't we become involved in that? And so it was a huge success, because the whole school got on board, and we worked together. And I credit a lot of that to Jane Reddish. Shame she retired last year as well too. So the school was going through that transition phase. Ms. McDonald's the new principal, but they're still keeping things rolling. One of the regular things that they keep doing is the homework sessions and a fitness in the bay. They call it fitness in the bay, where they get a Zumba instructor or a zoo instructor or whatever to come in and run some events for them, some exercise. So that's been really, really huge for us. And it's interesting times now, I guess, with Coles, with the community of learnings. How do you use that to achieve what we're trying to achieve here? Because it's a whole another thing together. I guess for me, because I was passionate about what I do and my kids, that's what drove me. And I guess as teachers, that's what, automatically you guys are passionate about what you do. You just want kids to grow, to develop, to do well in life. And so sometimes we have to keep that at the forefront of our mind. I work in a government agency where people get caught up about where their desk is facing, or what colour the wall is, or where that picture is, whose picture is. So people easily forget about why they got into the roles that they got into, because the process is so slow. It's not as cool or fast as you thought it would be. And so for us, we keep reminding ourselves, if we look at it from a Pacifica perspective, on the national scale, there's about 300,000 Pacific Island people in New Zealand at the moment. So there's 76,000 of them are in compulsory education, so that's primary through to end of college. And of that 76,000, 63% are in primary and intermediate, so that's huge. And of that, another 63% of that are all in decile 1 and 3. So that's kind of a national picture, or I guess what Health Promoting Schools is trying to work towards. And just trying to, and then, we look at when our kids come out of, I know it's not primary, but when our kids come out of college, about 81% of them have level 2. And I know the minister talks that up, but it's not, that's not much. Because if you look at the credits a lot of our kids are getting, they lead to nothing. They lead to back to foundation courses. So it's really key that what we do in primary school gets our kids ready for college. Because I know from a lot of research, a lot of our kids are going to college, they're not ready. They're not ready for school, for college, and so they get lost. So that's why we're really strong with Health Promoting Schools being where they are at the moment. And it was a surprise for us, because when Health Promoting Schools came, we thought, oh, they're just fruit in schools and all that stuff. But But you know, having that whole education focus is cool, because you know, as people working in the health sector, determinants of health, they're all interrelated. Unless you try and address them all, you can't address one on its own. So it's, I guess, how do we work together? And so yeah, this is the, you know, for us, this is our future. This is what drives us, and this is for our Malanga group, this is what keeps us going. We just keep looking at our kids every day and, oh yeah, okay, that's why I'm doing this.